Hey guys, on this Memorial Day, I wanted to share with you the story of Don Leslie Michael. Don Michael was a cousin of mine from the small town in Alabama called Lexington. And in 1966, when he was 18 years old, he went into the United States Army. And in short order, his government shipped him to the opposite side of the world to fight in Vietnam. And Don served with conspicuous gallantry in Vietnam. And actually, in one battle, he single-handedly took out a Viet Cong bunker. Sadly, while pursuing the retreating Viet Cong soldiers, he was mortally wounded in combat. And he died there in Vietnam. When word of Don's valor got back to the United States, he was posthumously awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, which I believe is the highest military honor that can be awarded an individual in the United States. So Don's story is an inspiring yet tragic one. He was a teenager and he lost his life at age 19 fighting in this Asian Civil War. Now, Don died in 1967 before I was even born. And growing up, I would occasionally hear mention of his sacrifice. But his story resonated all the more with me this year.
So we're about to embark on a Vespa adventure here in the Hoi An area.
Because earlier this year, Christy and I had the opportunity to visit Vietnam. We flew into Hanoi, and while we were in Vietnam, we were able to visit many key historic sites that played important roles during the Vietnam War. For example, the infamous Hanoi Hilton, where captured American pilots were kept during the war, including, for example, John McCain. We visited the Museum of the American War, which is what the Vietnamese call that particular war. Visiting Vietnam was so fascinating. It was truly one of my favorite travel experiences that I've had in my life.
Very beautiful.
So this is the traditional style, traditional ways, traditional equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the loom and the stick, and the way they make the mats, very
Yes.
traditional, a few hundred years old.
40 cents for one bunch.
40 cents for one bunch of fresh spinach.
Make fire, and that is a very cheap fuel. Like $1 for a big pack, and it lasts for 1 or 2 days.
You might wonder if, in the aftermath of the war and all that transpired in Vietnam, if there's any lingering hostility there towards Americans with regard to the war. In my experience, I encountered the opposite. What struck me about Vietnam was the incredible warmth and friendliness and hospitality of the people. Everywhere we went, we were greeted by smiles. They welcomed us with open arms. Quite often, I would be approached by strangers who wanted to get a photograph together. I don't turn too many heads in the United States, but sometimes traveling in Asia, when they see a tall guy who looks like me walking around, I'm a bit of a curiosity. And so occasionally, some really fun photo opportunities come out of that. So visiting Vietnam was so special to me and really rekindled my interest in the war and what happened there. And on this Memorial Day, I couldn't help but think about Don Leslie Michael and so many other soldiers who sacrificed everything they had. On Memorial Day, I think there's no better way to honor the memory of those who sacrificed their lives than by learning from these conflicts and moving forward, hopefully with greater wisdom. I just want to conclude this video by thanking all of those of you in our audience who served our country in the various branches of the military. And I think it's very important that on this day, every year, we stop and we remember those who did not make it home. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week.